Have you ever caught yourself longing to be the kind of person who stays steady no matter what? A person whose heartbeat doesn't jump when someone criticizes, whose mind doesn't spiral when a relationship ends, whose confidence doesn't crack when plans fall apart. Picture waking up one morning and noticing that the nagging weight in your chest, the silent ache that keeps you company even while you laugh with friends, is finally gone. Imagine letting every muscle relax because you no longer feel you must act invincible every minute of the day, no longer pressured to hold the title of unshakable for everyone else's sake. Maybe you're exhausted from holding the world's opinion on your shoulders, from polishing an image that demands constant strength when what you truly crave is a single breath of rest. Yet here is a truth most people avoid saying out loud: the more fiercely you run from pain, the tighter pain grips you. Each tactic you use to go numb, to distract yourself, to toughen up, to bury your emotions, binds you even more to every careless remark, each disappointing action, and the heavy silences that shout louder than words. Experiencing this turbulence does not mean you're fragile, it simply proves you're alive. Most people feel the same turmoil. Some have just rehearsed their mask for so long that the practice looks effortless. Carl Jung, one of the central voices in depth psychology, pointed out, "We are not what happens to us, but what we choose to become." The answer hides right there. Becoming untouchable is not about turning ice cold or erecting an unscalable wall. Real resilience has nothing to do with dulling your senses. It grows from integrating the feelings you've been hiding. Strength is full self-knowledge, knowing who you are even while the wound is open and bleeding. If you're still here, that isn't a coincidence. This talk is meant for the person who keeps getting bruised while trying to keep everyone else calm. It's for the one who senses that other people wield a strange power over them, a power that remains mysterious and unspoken. Life can change, but to rewrite your story, you must first face certain truths that might sting. Strangely, that first sting often grants genuine freedom. You might think your hurt lives outside you, in someone's thoughtless joke, in the abandonment you never expected, in the betrayal that caught you off guard. Yet the blunt reality is this: none of those scenes possess enough force to injure you unless there is already an unhealed wound waiting inside. What aches is not the event itself. What aches is the chain reaction that explodes within you afterward. It's the story you repeat, the memory left unattended, the hollow space you cover with brave smiles and pride. Jung teaches that discomfort triggered by the outer world is only a reflection of the inner world's unfinished business. That is why one person can walk through chaos with clarity, while another collapses over a passing comment. The deciding factor is never the situation. The deciding factor is the spot where it lands inside you. A hard confession follows. You keep suffering because a part of you believes you can dictate how life must treat you. You strive to be kind enough, smart enough, patient enough, strong enough, as if ticking off those boxes guarantees nobody will wound you again. But control is an illusion. The harder you grip it, the faster it slips away, leaving you tense, hypervigilant, and always bracing for the next shock. Do you want suffering to loosen its hold? Step away from the endless project of self-protection. What you need is not thicker armor, but deeper awareness. As long as your peace waits on other people changing, you remain chained to their moods. Real freedom begins the instant you grasp that anything arriving from outside can only hurt if it finds an echo already inside you. This brings us to the true battlefield, the unconscious, the part of your mind you don't see, can't easily describe, yet which quietly dictates your reactions. Whatever you don't examine or understand ends up ruling you. In the next chapter, we'll explore that hidden ground, because lasting transformation begins there. Before we dive deeper, if these words resonate, tap subscribe. It keeps this space alive for others walking the same road. Thank you for your support. Now, let's shatter the biggest myth sold to modern people. You are fully in control of your life. Wake up. You're not, at least not while you operate on autopilot. You react without knowing why, feel emotions whose sources stay hazy, and craft plans you later sabotage. Jung captured the problem perfectly. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That single sentence describes what's happening right now. The sharp pain striking from nowhere, the sudden burst of anger, the blanket of sadness drifting over you without explanation. None of these storms are they're signals rising from inside parts you once filed away, rejected, or declared irrelevant. Jung called this underground territory the unconscious. It isn't a vague fog. It's an active network packed with memories, shocks, hidden desires, and deep fears you'd rather avoid. Yet it keeps steering your every move. Ever wonder why one phrase slices you open while the person beside you shrugs? That phrase lands on a live wire inside you. The wire keeps sparking because you never faced it. You slid it under a psychological rug, and like any object hidden beneath cloth, you trip over it again and again. Each stumble reminds you that ignoring the issue never makes it vanish. It only forces you to meet it again tomorrow and the day after. Think back to the last line we touched. Every time you shove a feeling away, it comes pounding on the door again, often louder. Jung said we cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. That sentence is short, yet it reveals a universe. For most of your life, you have done the opposite. Condemned, repressed, judged, stuffed whatever felt messy deep under the floorboards, certain that a sealed-off basement meant safety. But the unconscious is not a guest who leaves when you ignore it. It stays, gathers force, and finds riskier stage lights. It shows up as the same exhausting love stories, the same jobs that drain you, the same late-night habits you swear you will quit. It sneaks in as dread on a perfectly calm afternoon. Those echoes are not cursed luck. They are your inner world rattling its chains, begging you to wake up while you still choose to sleep. Picture the energy it takes to keep running from a shadow that lives inside your own chest. If you don't learn its language, you will feel like a puppet dangling on strings of sudden rage, spirals of doubt, jolts of jealousy. The tighter you wrap yourself in bubble wrap against outside harm, the more exposed you become to the storms already brewing beneath your ribs. Real escape does not lie in thicker armor, it lives in honest integration. Becoming untouchable is never an act of brute force, it is an act of quiet seeing. Soon we will break down what that looks like in everyday life, why steadiness grows out of acceptance instead of iron shields. Many people still trust the old plan. Close the shutters, bolt the door, pretend the wind can't shake the house. They say, I'm over it, I don't care, nothing gets under my skin, yet behind the slogans, their hearts keep bleeding slow. The corrosion you feel inside has never been about the presence of feelings. The wound is not knowing precisely what the feelings are pointing to, or why they visit you now. That fog blankets every person who has yet to study their own pattern. Jung was precise when he stated, know all the theories, master all the techniques, but when touching a human soul, be just another human soul. The soul you are hiding beneath the polished mask of control is screaming for daylight. Emotional strength has nothing to do with frostbite indifference, nothing to do with dodging every argument, nothing to do with feigned coolness. It lives in integration, in the gentle decision to carry into daylight every fragment you once shoved into the dark. You never become untouchable by stacking bricks between you and the world. You become untouchable when you realize nobody can poke what you have already embraced. Once shadows, fears, doubts, and raw insecurities are folded back into the whole, outside events lose their power to throw you against the wall. You shift from automatic reaction to conscious choice, and choice is genuine freedom. Jung called this individuation, the unfolding of who you actually are rather than the character you audition for to win applause. Individuation rises from the handshake between the bright conscious ego and the hidden unconscious. Individuation is not a process of perfection, Jung said, but of it. You do not need a shinier, better personality, you need a complete one. Here hides a secret most classrooms never taught. The faster you sprint from pain, the faster pain chases, the more you insist nothing can upset you, the frailer you grow. When you finally kneel beside your own wounds, seeing the noble and the shameful, the graceful and the awkward, nothing external can dismantle what is whole. Yet the road demands courage on three fronts: courage to peer inward without flinching, courage to peel away masks, and courage to feel the ache instead of muting it. Buried in that very ache sits the key that turns the lock on transformation. In the section ahead, we will uncover how suffering, far from enemy territory, can stand at the front gate of lasting power. Keep going deeper, this time leave the flashlight on. From early childhood, you were trained to distrust pain. Somewhere along the path you heard that hurting equals weakness, tears equal wasted minutes, sensitivity equals trouble. So you learned to sprint, to dodge, to deny. Yet the more distance you attempt to place between yourself and suffering, the closer it sticks. Ignored pain changes wardrobe, one day anxiety, the next unexplained anger, the next a gray emptiness that drags your limbs. Pain, unacknowledged, never evaporates. It tunnels underneath until one ordinary morning the ground opens and the life you framed so carefully sinks a few inches. Jung saw suffering with different eyes. He called pain a messenger of the soul, a ringing alarm from the unconscious, the special language the whole self uses when it must capture your attention. He said, depression is like a lady in black. If she appears, don't push her away. Invite her to sit down, offer her a coffee and listen to what she has to say.
Yet most of us ignore the knock.
We drown the sound with non-stop podcasts, endless scrolling, extra shifts, sugary food, whatever numbs. While we distract ourselves, an essential question waits: what is this discomfort trying to reveal? Suffering stings so sharply because you are still fighting yourself. One force inside wants expansion. Another grip wants the comfortable known. A voice within urges you to transform. The ego, which loves its old throne, clamps a hand over that voice. The friction of those two currents births pain. Change hurts, growth hurts, loosening stale beliefs, trimming toxic branches, letting an outdated version of you die, all taste like mourning because they are internal funerals, mini deaths that clear room for the next season. Look closer though. Within the wreckage, seeds crack open. When the familiar walls cave in and certainty dissolves, pain strips away costumes, leaving pure vulnerability. Inside that rawness, you finally witness who you are without armor, without applause, without scripted lines. For the first time, you breathe without the weight of performance. This is the sacred space where the rubble of yesterday becomes the soil of tomorrow, where you can lay the first brick of a life built on authenticity instead of defense. And so the circle completes itself. You feared pain might break you, yet pain was only guiding you back to your own center, the one spot nobody else can steal, the one place no outside insult or abandonment can penetrate once you have met it fully. Accept that messenger, listen over the hum of resistance, and the cycle of endless hurt dissolves. Every step you take in honest acceptance is one more string cut free from the unseen puppeteer. At the very instant true pain forces you down, suffering turns almost sacred. Because on the floor you finally face the only doorway that can ever release you, your own self. Jung understood this truth long before most of us could name it. He knew suffering is not proof that life failed, but evidence that a deeper process just switched on. Hurt is never the finish line. It is the early mile marker on the long road toward individuation. The tragedy is that many people spin around before they reach the first ridge of that dark valley. They distract themselves with noise, sprint back to familiar ground, or wrap the wound again and pretend it vanished. If you are still listening, it means you are prepared to cross the valley, not escape it. And the lines that follow will show how that crossing unfolds, how the path, even when it feels harsh and lonely, is the route that finally sets you free. Few souls choose to step onto the trail of individuation, and fewer finish it, because the way offers no comforts, gives no neat guarantees, and certainly does not stroke the ego. It tears the ego apart. Jung described individuation as the slow act of becoming who you are. Yet that gentle phrase hides a brutal twist. The first stage is unlearning who you thought you were. That acknowledgement stings more than any rejection outside you, because you start to see that much of what once defined you was smoke. You are not your trophies. You are not your heartbreaks. You are not the public story crafted to earn love, respect, or applause. Those were clever tools to help you survive, but surviving and living are two different verbs, and individuation is life's invitation to step past mere survival. The unconscious begins pushing every repressed, distorted, hidden piece upward where you can see it. Individuation requires the dissolution of the persona, Jung wrote, for it is merely a mask of collective convenience. Put plainly, you must peel off your own mask to discover the face beneath. Only in that raw uncovering do you become untouchable, not because events cease to affect you, but because you have already walked through the fire and looked straight at your monsters. You glared at shame, neediness, and anger and said, "I see you," and you no longer steer the ship. That inner lucidity, that steady gaze into your own night, gifts you a power that owes nothing to applause, titles, or control over other people. You stop yearning to be liked by everyone, stop scrambling to win every debate, stop flexing to appear solid, because you now know the ground you stand on and no comment can steal it. Real emotional armor, then, is not a thick shell but a firm center. It is the weaving of every scattered part into a stable core of consciousness that stays calm when storms rage overhead. Pain can still cut, yet it does not shatter you. Losses can still bruise, but they do not erase you, because you have moved from endless reaction to mindful choosing. You no longer skate across the surface of experience, you live in the depths. Depth, however, extracts a price, a sense of loneliness. Not because you will lack company, but because few companions can travel this far below the obvious. Most people stay caught on the shining top layer, stuck to masks, gripped by the terror of feeling. When you unfasten yourself from that layer, distance appears. But distance is not arrogance, it is ripening. You drift not out of pride, but because the small rooms you once used for hiding no longer hold the expanded contours of who you have become. This widening leads us to a final, crucial insight. Consciousness itself is the real shield. Strength alone does not guard you, seeing clearly does. Nothing, absolutely nothing, can keep hurting you once you understand exactly what arises inside you when the world moves. We are close to that turning point now. Take a careful breath. If you stay asleep to your private landscape, no barbed wire will block incoming pain. Words will still slice, rejection will still sting, and grief will still swamp you. The only end to that cycle is awakening. And awakening is not a miracle bolt from the sky. It is a choice you make every single day. It is turning inward even when the glance burns. It is claiming responsibility for every wave of feeling without pushing blame onto people, history, or pure chance. Carl Jung said, "What you resist persists, what you accept transforms." Revisit that line slowly. You have spent so many years resisting the terror of being not enough, resisting the hollow sound of rejection, resisting the ache of loneliness, resisting the burning wish to feel deeply seen. And what happened? You tightened your throat, hid your heart, tried to choreograph every scene, tried to appear flawless, tried to stay invincible. All that strain delivered you here, drained and weary from the battle against both the outer world and your inner echoes. Now a different path opens. True emotional immunity does not grow from hardness, it grows from clarity. Immunity is not about welding tougher armor, it is about widening awareness. The second you grasp your triggers, trace your repeating loops, and tend to old wounds, other people's actions lose the power to crush you. Yes, you will still feel, your chest will still tighten now and then. But you will not drown, you might suffer, yet you will not vanish. That single shift changes the entire game. The shield, in other words, is not avoiding life, but plunging into it. Folks who flap around on the surface get scraped by every passing wave. Divers know that beneath the chop lies quiet, steadiness, and real force. That is where you are heading. When you begin to live from that underwater silence, built of integration, presence, and honest acceptance, the world can swing, but its fist no longer lands. The frantic search for armor ends because the blow no longer knows where to strike. If some note in this talk vibrated inside you, drop "I choose awareness" below. Let's build a small movement of people who stop hiding under a costume of strength and instead walk wide-eyed into truth. And remember, the next video carries this journey forward. Keep moving. Transformation truly gathers pace when you refuse to park at the first milestone.
See you there. Thanks for watching. We will see you in the next video.
Until then, take care and goodbye.